Hi, it's Leslie Meredith with Breakbulk Events and Media here in Rotterdam. I have Tina Benjamin Lee with me on assignment to Lily and here with us today, which we're so excited about. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you, Leslie. Nice to see you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, well, it's always great to see you. And you just finished moderating a panel on geopolitical risk and the impact on contracts and trade routes, all covered a wide gamut of things. And tell us who was on your panel first.
Had a great panel. I was very lucky. I had Dr. Martin Harron from JSI Alliance. Great participant, great insights. I had Pat Richardson. I mean, Pat has been an industry fixture for a day or two, and I was very pleased that he agreed to also provide his insights because, again, he's been around a while. He's seen different areas of the world evolve, and again, having his insight. We had Sophie from Marsh, a new participant in Breakbulk, and again, a new view from the insurance and risk management side, and Wim from BDP. BDP is a large company which is well known for the shipment of chemicals, but also they are owned by the Port of Singapore. So very unique insights there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And how is that group connected?
The connection is that when you have a project, you have multiple stakeholders. It starts, of course, with the cargo owner. Usually, whether it's a government, it is a oil O&G company. You have the EPCs, of course, as the cargo owners. They are executing, building, the engineering, procurement, construction, and then you have the various stakeholders. So you have the insurers who provide the cargo insurance, which, of course, in times of geopolitical landscapes that we find right now, which are unpredictable, which pose a new challenge. So it's a little bit like a game of Jenga. You pull one block out and another one starts shaking. You have the ship owners who, of course, carry the cargo from origin to destination. And often destination is no longer a nice port like Rotterdam, but ports that are, again, in areas that are feeling the geopolitical impacts. So the group we had today are just a group of stakeholders that are very, very commonplace in a project.
Yeah, absolutely. So representative of many scenarios that we're seeing. Now, you've certainly been involved in regions of conflict in the past. So what a great role for you today to be moderator, a lot of experience. How do you think the approach to conflicts has changed, say, from 10 or 20 years ago to today? What are you seeing today that's different than we've seen in the past?
Again, conflict areas. So if we cast our mind back, 2005, we've just come out of Gulf War II, rebuilding of the Iraqi infrastructure, oil and gas. But again, it was a regionally contained specific area without global impact. We had to come up with very, very risk-centric strategies in order to execute. We, of course, had to find a plan B. However, the difference of the geopolitical landscape today is that the effect reverberates. And it's not just one. In total, right now, if we look at the total days of conflict between the Black Sea, Bab el-Mandab, Red Sea, and of course, the current challenges around the Arabian Gulf, this adds up to well over 2,500 days of conflict, which means we have to rethink. It's whether it is the positioning of equipment being in the wrong place, availability of cargo, of specialized equipment for container shipments. If we look at vessel positioning and the inability to access certain ports, to discharge cargo, or simply not having the ability to leave a certain area, which also means there is a limitation on availability of tonnage. And whilst it's only about 10%, I believe, of the heavy lift fleet, it still has an impact. So now we have to ask ourselves, how do we approach projects? Do we now say, well, we need a plan when we go out to tender? Do we need a plan A, but also plan B? How do we look at risk management? How do we look at business continuity? How do we look at security? And by security, I don't just mean cargo security. I also mean the security of our teams, the stakeholders. One of the things we often talk about is commercial aspects. We talk about cargo safety. We talk about continuity, but we're people industry. Mm-hmm. We have teams all over the world. We have projects being executed all over the world. These are people, humans. We have crews, humans on the ships that are the ones who are sitting at the forefront. Often they sit right in the middle of it all happening. And again, we need to ask our questions. One of the things we often talk about is the socio-economic impact on land, but we also have an impact on crews, on people in ports, on our teams. So I think the landscape of how we approach projects is changing.
That's interesting. So it's really not, in the current conflict, not just about the price of oil.
No, I think it's global, because we often forget that, when we talk about petrochem, oil, crude, it's all the byproducts. So for instance, one of the things that, comes out of oil and gas industry is fertilizer. It's the components of fertilizers, which means if you cannot deliver fertilizers, that has an impact on the food chain, because no fertilizer, less grain, again, that impacts, and that will impact not only on the loaf of bread you buy at home at Costco, it will also have an impact on third world countries in order to feed their, populace. And this has an impact everywhere. We find the impact when you go and pump your gas, all of a sudden, it's impacting, your budget, your personal budget. So it's not just projects. It hits home all the way when you go home.
Absolutely. I thought one of the concepts that you brought up during this session was the idea of a red line for insurance companies, was the way it was initially presented. How did that conversation unfold?
I think that the saying generally is nothing is uninsurable. It's just a question of the price. But again, it also depends on every company, every service provider has a different pain threshold. Where does the red line lie? How far are we willing to go, accept risk, knowingly accept risk? Also, how far can we manage that risk? And when does risk become unmanageable, which means for insurers, accepting that they're potentially taking on a risk event that has a 90 or 95% likelihood of happening. How do you ensure that, and what's the premium against that? And again, the commercial considerations, it's a very complex question that I think Sophie would be far better equipped to respond than I would be.
Well, it's interesting from that standpoint, but also there were others on the panel who have a red line.
I think, when we talk about, again, going back to crew safety, crew safety is a red line. It's one thing talking about ensuring inert things such as cargo, vessels, assets, but the greatest asset to our industry to this day is still our people. And I think that is a red line in our industry, and rightly so. And rightly so,
exactly right. The other thing that struck me was, for, as you know, many years at Breakbulk, we've had conversations around collaborations, and people always want partners, shippers, forwarders to, forwarders especially want to be in the discussions earlier.
Yes.
And it sounded like this is a situation where that's actually happening.
I think it does. as with all conflict, it's nothing that anybody can solve alone, and solutions come out of collaboration. We have so many different stakeholders, so it's not just a relationship between a forwarder and an EPC. You have the service providers, you have the insurers. There's so many aspects to this, and again, early engagement also increases the chances to deliver on time, on budget, but also identifying potential areas of challenge early. And I think our industry is getting better at communication.
And that's a good thing.
Well, it's what we all hope for, what we all aim for. And I think events like Breakbulk greatly foster that collaboration. You create a forum for engagement, for conversation, for new thoughts, for new technology. And that is why I think Breakbulk has such an important part to play in our industry.
Well, we certainly appreciate your support. You've been just so instrumental over the years in fostering collaboration and discussion, certainly.
Thank you, Leslie.
All right,
Really
so good
appreciate it.
talking to you.
It's great to see you, and I look forward to seeing you next year.
Absolutely.
Thank you.